how about some of the battles between Van Damme and his opponents, like Jerry Lynn, when he took Jerry Lynn to the limits? Jerry Lynn, hey, I'll take a draw. Oh, I thought you were Debbie. Oh, no. Hey. Oh, sorry, Daddy. Sorry, keep rolling, baby. Don't wind me up. I thought it was Debbie. It was Axel Rotten.
Looks like the next thing I'm going to be doing is an appearance on 18 Wheels of Justice, which is an action series on TNN. Yeah, don't have a confirmed date yet because it's been pushed back a few times, but that's something that my manager and Rick Oki, the writer, creator, is going over. They're talking over business right now, and it's going back and forth and all kinds of stuff. I mean, living out here in Los Angeles, there's all kinds of opportunities. And those are two movies that I've done, and I've followed up with a little bit, since being out here.
Yo juego con mi salud, usted no. Si se lastimó o se enfermó en el trabajo, llame a los defensores. Son especialistas en compensación al trabajador, que le ofrece hasta $490 semanales mientras se recupera. Y su trabajo está seguro cuando exige este derecho. Además, con los defensores, todo lo hablado queda entre usted y su abogado. Los defensores, derechos con el trabajador. 1-800-636-3636 y problema resuelto.
You also did City Guys, right?
Yeah, City Guys, which I didn't know what it was until I'd been on it. A teen NBC Saturday morning show. Came through my agent, through my manager to me. It was a superstar cameo, so it wasn't something that I auditioned for. I went in and I played Rob Van Dam.
So back in 1996 now, you're working independence. Then you decided to go work for ECW. Had you ever got any offers to go anywhere else before you went to ECW? I mean, one of the major promotions?
When I went to, no, I mean, between me leaving WCW and me coming to ECW, I was touring regularly for All Japan, and at that point, Baba had told me personally that the company needed me. This was, a real secure feeling. He said I could have as many weeks as I wanted. He gave me raises every time that I asked for one, and so he made me feel, like that was something I could always have. And I knew the other guys that worked for Baba had been working for years and years for him, so I knew that he wasn't much for, getting rid of somebody without telling them. I mean, definitely the other guys been working there like 8 years. Stan Hansen, Dory Funk, they've been wrestling there since like 1974, So I had that secure feeling, and one time I got a phone call out of the blue from Paul Heyman asking if I was interested in ECW and coming up there, and nothing ever became of that phone conversation. He wanted me to go up and work with Mikey Ripwreck, and it was something that I'm glad I didn't do, because a few weeks later I ended up going up there to wrestle against Sabu, which was a much better way of coming in instead of going up there to get Mikey over.
Did Sabu ever talk to you about, hey, this is the place for you to be, come on in?
Yeah, oh yeah, he had been, and he'd been wrestling there for quite a while, and he was in Paul's ear to get me to come in for a long time.
Had you already been following ECW a little bit? You knew kind of what your style was?
I was familiar enough with their reputation, but I didn't get it regularly on TV. I wasn't watching a lot. I didn't know a lot of the wrestlers that were up there. I went up there and I had my debut match with Axel Rotten, and Axel comes up to me in the dressing room and he's got a baseball bat and it's all wrapped in barbed wire, and he's like, "Oh, I guess it's you and me tonight." And I'm like, "Dude, that's barbed wire. Are you going to use that in the ring?" And he says, that the fans up there really appreciate the wrestlers for what they got, and and everyone's got their own tight little thing they do. I mean, Taz was the guy that did the suplexes and the wore orange, and he had his own tense little situation going on there, and Sandman and Dreamer and everyone. I said, well, I don't really know. I don't want to do moves, that other people do and stuff, and have the audience not impressed, because I wanted to impress them by doing flying moves. I didn't know what anyone else did. Axel says, we pretty much just do whatever we do here, and the crowd, if the crowd likes you, they do. If they don't, they don't. That's what he told me before my first match. I knew that prior to coming up there to ECW, all I was used to doing was showing my dimples you know, being a baby face, you know, all-American hero-looking wrestler, trying to get the crowd behind me going, yeah, come on, everybody. And I just knew ECW crowd, they were going to eat me up. I mean, these are all, you know, black t-shirt, rock and roll concert going, you know, beer drinking, screaming fans, you know.
Did a lot of fans already know who you were?
Yeah, I mean, when I debuted there, a lot of them, they're very smart to the internet, and they read all of the sheets and get all the magazines, so they know a lot more than they're just able to watch because they're educated. And their ECW's typical fan is a hardcore fan, which means that they go out of their way to find wrestling information, and it means that they will. You know, especially with EC back then. I mean, before we had strong television, a lot of the fans were doing tape trading. You know, which exchanging videotapes of ECW to people who couldn't get it anywhere. Could be any different states, different countries, whatever. But definitely, I didn't have like a huge response when I first came to the ECW arena. Like, oh my God, you know, Rob Van Dam's here. It wasn't like that at all.
What was Paul like back then?
Well, I mean, I guess I didn't talk to Paul a whole lot. You know, when I first came in. I mean, that was over 4 years ago, and just like as things progress, you know, now that I'm worth a lot more money than I was when I came in, I'm also a different kind of businessman. And as far as I've always been interested in protecting my assets, meaning, you know, anytime that I wasn't used right, I would, you know, I'd move on and make sure that I can keep my value rising in an upward motion. Done that throughout my whole career. With when I first came into ECW, besides how crazy it was, there was more people in the dressing room than I'd ever seen in a dressing room before. I mean, it was just packed, and back then it was a little crazy. And I mean, there's like 6 or 7 women, you know, that were wrestling for the company at the time, and they're in the dressing room, and which was, you know, to me, I got to leave the dressing room to get dressed and then come back, you know, and people smoking and drinking. It seemed kind of crazy. And then after the shows, they do their promos. This was back then. They would do it on the top floor of the Travel Lodge till like 4 or 5 in the morning. They're doing their promos. And before I came to ECW, I hadn't been on the microphone very much either, so I wasn't very comfortable talking. I'd done a few basic interviews that I hated, you know, that I wasn't too proud of. I stayed clear of Paul and the promo room afterwards, and it took quite a while before I started grabbing a hold of that mic. Boy, once I did.
Well, then in April '96, the Hostile City Showdown show, you had a match there against Sabu in the Blues Net, and the big thing was afterwards you refused to shake his hand, you know, for the sign of respect, and turned heel. Was that kind of the match that kind of placed you on the map, kind of?
Well, actually, that did start an angle between Sabu and myself, which turned a lot of heads towards me. Sabu, at the time, he'd been there a long time, and he was like the freak. I mean, he was the first one to be putting people through tables, and everyone in ECW in the crowd there, I believe most of them bought their ticket to come and see Sabu, and he was so daring, and you know, they called him the human highlight reel. And then after I had a match with him, where after he beat me, and this was, you know, maybe my second, third match in ECW, it was very soon. He offered his hand to shake my hand, and I pulled back and didn't shake his hand. This is the beauty of ECW, and because of that, it started this huge ongoing angle that still goes on today. It led to a rematch where the winner of that match had to shake the other's hand.
Right, matter of respect.
And say that I respect you, which I beat him, which was totally unheard of. I mean, now the fans are seeing another style. I don't think the style necessarily was similar to Sabu's, but whatever came out of my matches with Sabu, the crowd liked. They liked the chemistry. They liked my moves and his moves together, or whatever it was. They thought that maybe they just thought that somebody was finally taking Sabu to his limits, and then finally somebody beat Sabu, and that was a hell of a strong win. I mean, Sabu hadn't lost too many matches.
Then you did the stretcher match with him at the Doctor's Inn.
Came back after I didn't shake his hand after I beat him in a stretchers match, which was great. This is one of the craziest matches I've been in, where you have to get carried on a stretcher all the way through the dressing room door in order to lose the match. So if you can get off the stretcher on the aisle on your way to the dressing room and make it back to the ring, then the match continues. And pretty brutal match. At that time in my career, that was definitely the most interesting match that I had, and probably one that really started drawing me into the ECW style, starting to really appreciate the freedom of being able to be creative and innovative and what's that word, Fonzie? Innovative? I appreciated then, and this is what kept me in ECW, the ability to do what I feel is right as a performer, to entertain people that have paid to come and see me, you know?
Now, your career's kind of been linked with Sabu, because I mean, you had this big feud with them, you've had an ongoing thing, but you've also tagged with them a lot. Which do you like more? Do you like getting in the ring against him? You like being on the same side with him?
I prefer wrestling single matches overall. I like the spotlight on me where I have control. Because anytime there's a tag match, that means 4 wrestlers and a referee. There's 5 other people that can help determine. Wait, that's 4 other people and myself. I was including Fonzie. Don't want to leave him out, right down the middle. But there's that many other people in the ring that can determine whether it's a good match or not, you know, usually. And I like to have me and another guy, and that's what you depend on. So I prefer to be a singles wrestler, and I always have. But if I do have to have a partner, then definitely Sabu is the only good partner for me that I've found, you know, so far. Not that I'm looking, but definitely when we were tagging him, we tagged in the States for a long time, held the ECW Tag Team Championship belts until Sabu lost it. And then we wrestled against Japanese wrestlers as a tag team and against Americans in Japan. We wrestled together in Germany as a tag team. And definitely, if there's someone to be my partner, it would be him. You know, I mean, we trained together since I started, and then we always cross paths, you know, even if we do end up wrestling for different promotions. And I like his style of wrestling next to mine more than anybody else's. Anybody else in the ring with me is just going to be taken away from the match.
And everything's going fine in ECW, like in 1997 in March. Then, just a couple of weeks before the Barely Legal pay-per-view, the first ECW pay-per-view, you went to Savannah, Georgia, and met with some people in WCW, and that kind of got some people thinking, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I was living in Savannah, Georgia at the time, and I went to see a couple of my friends there, and I ran into Eric Bischoff at the Civic Center, who had pulled me aside and told me that he could see me being in WCW. He made me an offer. He named a price, you know, and it was something where I left there saying, well, I just came by to say hi, but cool, you know, I'll think about it, call you, whatever. By the time I got back to ECW, it was like huge news. It was like all over the internet. There's rumors everywhere. And Paul was asking me, you know, are you going to leave? Are you going to go to a WCW? And I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about it, and I was surprised that he even wanted to keep me there, because at the time I wasn't feeling very appreciated. Basically, it was I felt like the stepping boy for the Eliminators, because me and Sabu were wrestling this feud against the Eliminators almost every night, and nobody could get beat during that match because of the pushes that they were in, and that was my position to you know, to take it for Sabu. And it was, and I was, you know, not pleased with where it was going, you know, because I saw no end to it, you know. And also way back then I was wrestling Taz when he was getting a big push, and I was the new guy in the company, and I wasn't that proven at the time, and I kind of thought maybe I was expendable and it wouldn't matter if I did go somewhere else. So for Paul to all of a sudden, you know, be like, you know, I don't want you to go anywhere, and I was, you know, then I was like, well, shoot, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna be considering this, and then the pay-per-view is coming up. And I'm not even booked on the pay-per-view, which is extremely offensive to me, because I had been there long enough to where I felt like I could weigh myself against the other guys in the dressing room and see a value.
Now at the pay-per-view, you took Candido's place. He was supposed to
Exactly.
wrestle. He was injured. You faced Lance Storm instead. And afterwards, you won the match. You had the big thing about that's when the Mr. Monday Night character started to come out.
Yeah, and it was a shoot on the microphone. I was saying how pissed I was that I wasn't even chosen to be on the card for the pay-per-view, because I figured if this is ECW's first chance to show the world what it's about and what it has to offer, they'd rather bring in some new guys from Michinoku that aren't even part of our company. And Lance Storm was very new at the time, and he was going to be wrestling Candido. Bring in other guys while a lot of guys sat on the bench and were upset. I was one that was maybe more vocal about it, enough to the point to where I was definitely ready to go somewhere else. Definitely, and I had the opportunity to do so. And then when Candido got hurt, and then they called me at the last minute to go in. They needed me then for the pay-per-view. Then that was even more offensive because I felt like a second string. If I went to WCW, then I would be maybe starting over there, whatever. I'd be building something completely new in WCW. Whereas if I could wrestle on WWF, without actually being a WWF wrestler while I'm still under contract, I wasn't under contract for ECW, then that would be something that was unheard of. That would be something to, whoa, to really like shock everybody. I could play off the momentum of being Mr. Monday Night, the wrestler that was too good to be in ECW. They got out of there just because his talents belonged on a Monday night where the true superstars wrestle. Well, hey, that was a good way to use the momentum to increase my my growing popularity, and it was something that we took advantage of. When everyone thought that I was going to appear on WCW Nitro, I debuted on Monday Night Raw, and I was leaving for Japan for in a day or two, so I was going to make a quick appearance on Raw just to shock the wrestling world, take off to Japan, and give everyone a few weeks to circulate rumors.
You did this.
Went in just a few days from me being the outsider, the superstar, the hardcore wrestler, beating WWF guys who's not even under contract for WWF, and then pretty soon you get to see Brian Christopher, Sabu, Chris Candido, all wrestling like it's no big deal, all outsiders with no explanation, not me introducing them or anything. In the meantime, for me, being built up is, Mr. Monday Night, then all of a sudden I'm teaming with Jerry Lawler, they're beating my partner, I'm already doing jobs. I'd only had 2 matches so far, mind you, to build me up. What is that? Why do I keep doing that? You know what? I've seen it on Saturday Night Live.
Now, did you originally like the angle though, the Mr. Monday Night thing? And
Originally it was great, and just like I did with WCW, just like I eventually did with All Japan, just like I've always done, I found it best to get out of there at the peak of what I saw, as far as good exposure, and leave before it turned bad. Because being Mr. Monday Night, after I'd only been on there twice so far on Raw, now when I show up, hey, Mr. Monday Night shows up for work, guess what? We're going to show this match on Shotgun Saturday. Nobody cares about the match. They say, nobody watched Shotgun Saturday. Nobody wants to go over it or even care to get together about it until 10 minutes before. No one's concerned about it. I don't want to team with Jerry the King Lawler. I mean, I just got through telling you I don't like to team, and if I do team, it's going to be with Sabu, because then at least I know the crowd's going to be entertained when I'm on the apron. I mean, are they going to really be that entertained when Jerry Lawler's in there doing his silly stuff? Yeah, his fans, not RVD fans.
Now, were you ever offered a contract by the WWE?
The very final day when it was in Detroit, when I showed up, and Sabu was on that card as well, and I found out that, again, this was going to be showing Shotgun Saturday, whatever. I was going to be wrestling against the Road Dogg Jesse James, who at the time, I don't think he was the Road Dogg yet.
I don't think so.
They called him something else. But anyway, I was going to be wrestling him, and the plan, and Jerry Lawler he's going to come in the ring and interfere, get me DQ'd, and why? I mean, what the hell is that all about? If Jerry Lawler comes in the ring, I'm going to beat his ass. Why wouldn't I? And the final blow-off was a meeting where that was the first time that I actually talked to Vince McMahon, and it was, of course, it was a pretty heated conversation. There was a group of us locked in a room, Paul Heyman, Bruce Pritchard, who were over there talking to each other behind, not listening to Vince, and myself talking, Sabu beside me, and the brother, who's the brothers from Florida, his right-hand man, the Briscoe brother.
Oh, okay, Jerry Briscoe.
Okay, so I'm like, if this is going somewhere, then you got to tell me, because it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. I was being built up as a superstar. I come in, and now all of a sudden I'm losing matches because my partner's getting beat. I don't even want him to be my partner, and I'm already taking off Monday nights, with the Mr. Monday Night. This is a chance for ECW to be seen on WWF's show, which is great, because Paul and Tommy and Sandman, they would come from the crowd to try to get me to say, you're under contract with ECW, come back. Great exposure, right? Also, I saw it as a great chance for WWF to completely squash ECW on their TV by doing stupid things like having them an ECW guy come into WWF and lose a match, and start losing them regularly, whatever. So at that last bit, when I had a meeting with Vince, that's when Vince did say that he had long-term plans for me staying with WWF. He wanted me to sign exclusively with the World Wrestling Federation, which was a complete shock to me, because I'm like, what are you talking about, me and staying in WWF? And he says, well, I never would have been putting you on Monday night shows if I hadn't, planned on you staying in WWF. And I'm like, well, why is it that, our boss is saying, this is like a short-term deal. We're just here, ECW, get some exposure. We're watching our backs in the dressing room, feeling like they don't even want us there. And so there was so many middlemen between the whole thing that if anyone did have the same plans, then they were twisted. And that's when, after a conversation there, we ended up coming to no agreement whatsoever, and that's when it was time to load the saddles up and hit the road.
You just feel ECW was probably a better situation for yourself then?
Totally. And again, another decision that I never regretted.
Hey, Mr. Monday Night, stay in ECW. You're gonna be doing the job. You go to the big leagues, you'll be on your back like this. All right? 419. Got a minute?
What you got drinking tonight?
Hey RVD, are you gonna sell out like Taz did?
Rob, just one question. When you going after the heavyweight title? That's all I want to know.
Rob, what's the worst you've ever...
Again.
All right. Rob, what's the worst you ever injured someone?
Rob Van Dam, I get Northern Lights 120 a quarter. I suggest you call me.
I think that I know what's best for me, as opposed to Office Geeks and Ties, which is what runs the company. Of course, they're the kings of that business, but me as an artist and a performer, I definitely enjoy being able to express myself the way that I want to.
Now, back in ECW, you had originally, when you started, you're kind of the quiet guy. You came in, you hadn't been on the mic much, like you said, but you were kind of getting an attitude in the ring where you're getting a little bit more obnoxious. That's what people were thinking of you as. Did you like that transition where you're getting more time like that?
It really wasn't a transition. It was more like a steady thing for me. I mean, I have since been in ECW. I came in as a good guy, and then when I started wrestling Sabu, then boo, I didn't shake his hand. Asshole, I'm a bad guy. And then when we started teaming and we had the tag belts, then I was a babyface again. Then everybody started getting behind me. I was always, I've never been accused of being anything other than confident, believing in myself and being able to express it, and telling the crowd, hey, I'm the best, was something that they could use against me, if they wanted to. But they started saying, you know what, they started saying, he's backing up what he's talking about. And, being cocky in the ring and the character of pointing my thumbs at the whole effing show, that's all something that I'm doing to tell the fans, this is true. I mean, yeah, more character because, like I said, when I came into ECW, I knew I couldn't just smile and clap my hands anymore. I needed to adapt, and I really watched the crowd, and I didn't know that I was starting something new. When I started saying right here, this is what it's all about, yeah. And the fans started doing that back to me. And when I did my one of my last tours of Japan, and I saw a big line of Japanese fans, and I looked out the window of the bus, and they were all doing that. That's when I realized, wow, I've got like my own trademark thing here. And it was something that I didn't even plan on. I didn't say I need something. I need some kind of signature. It was just me working in the ring, which is how a lot of things. Come about.
How much of your attitude in the ring is really you personally? I mean, outside the ring, is it more character, or is that how you really are?
I would say that. I mean, you probably got to ask somebody else, really. But when I'm in the ring, there's definitely something real going on. The fans are asking me to give them something, and I'm hearing that, and I'm giving it to them. I think a lot of guys miss out on that. They work their asses off. They do all kinds of moonsaults, whatever. They face off, and they think the crowd's just going to clap because they've seen me do it, and they don't understand why there's no reaction. It's like, well, why the fans are going to care about that? We didn't give any reason to care. But with the RVD fans, they're telling me that they appreciate me working real hard, and I'm telling them this is the only way I'll have it. I'm going to come out here and bust my ass and work, and that's because I want to impress. I don't want people really thinking that I suck. Of course, anytime you're in a celebrity status, you got to put up with any kind of negative feedback. But I think it's a very good balance because when I'm not in the ring, I'm very mellow. I'm a very passive guy, and that's because, like I explained earlier, when I was a kid growing up, I was a punk, and I lived through that time to where that was my outlet. I'd go out, like getting in fights and then or competing in the ring, whatever. If it was just punching a bag every day, I had something that I got out of my system. And once I started getting into my 20s, and I started realizing that I was going to be a little more successful, and priorities changed in my life. Started, concentrating a little bit more on getting ahead, a little less on being a kid, this and that. But the same heart and determination that I had when I was a kid never left. So now, when I'm in the ring and I'm being cocky, and I can't go up to someone in a restaurant, be like, hey, I'm the whole effing show. I know you're happy to have me in your restaurant. Maybe I could, maybe I can't, but definitely that's not the real me. That's me when I'm performing for my fans. And it's not something fake. I mean, I don't go out there and put a mask on and say that I'm from Mexico or anything like that. I mean, what you see there in the ring is me, and you see me exercising my energies through the outlet of professional wrestling. It completely counters, I would say, the rest of my day.
You ever afraid that anybody that you work with is going to see you as being conceited?
No, I don't care. I mean, a lot of people have always been, like I was talking about way back in the Tampa days, coming up, but I definitely paid a lot of dues from having 4 people staying in 5 people staying in a $28 hotel room, everybody laying on the floor, sharing car rides, trying to scrape up money to get food to eat, years of that, all the shitty jobs. I've definitely paid my dues, so no one can look at me as one of the guys that just jumps right into the business on top, which does happen. I came up the traditional way. A lot of guys, some of the guys that are on top right now, they just, boom, they got put right in on top, make a lot of money.
Has anybody ever gotten mad at you for being cocky in the ring or like doing a promo? Because I mean, a lot of the promos people see, especially with Sabu, where you're doing stuff at his expense, almost like joking around. Has anybody ever gotten mad at you for being too cocky and stepped you aside in the back and said, hey, what the hell's going on?
I actually have had a couple of wrestlers pull me aside, 2 of them in ECW one time, and tell me how inappropriate they thought it was, and I'm just saying, you just don't understand me.
What was it, from just you doing the whole up and show point and everything, or was it something else? Or
no, that's all it was. Yeah. That's exactly what comes to mind when you asked me the question, and it was a thing that I argued with them and explained my point of view, but basically that's the way it is. And now, I mean, I've been in ECW for 4 years, and the most popular wrestler in ECW history, blah blah blah. I say blah blah blah, meaning to build myself up here, at this point, let's just say I'm at a position in the company where not as much compromise is needed. More of just doing what RVD says is right is appreciated now.
Now, while you're in ECW, you also got another close friendship with Louis Spicolli.
Absolutely.
What was it like knowing Louis?
Louis was a great guy to be around. He was in the Sabu clique, and I knew that before I knew him. Sabu had wrestled in FMW with Louis, which is where he met him, and I knew they kept in touch, and they did a lot of shows together, you know, when I was busy doing independence in Georgia. And I met Louis when I was wrestling in Las Vegas. When I was living in Augusta, Georgia, I used to wrestle once a month in Las Vegas for a promoter named T.C. Martin. Cactus Jack, Terry Funk, Virgil, Honky Tonk Man, Jim Abel Neidhart, a bunch of the guys, former WWFers, whatever. At that time, that was the NCW, National Championship Wrestling. No, it was NWC, National NWC. That's where I first met Louis. I first met Louis there, and I'd heard Sabu talk about, so I just knew that he was going to be a friend of mine since he was in the same clique. And I really didn't get to hang around him a whole lot until ECW. That was when I would travel out on the road and we'd ride together. Sabu and his wife, myself, Louis, my wife, you know, later when she came along, and even before that, it was always Pee Wee, the referee. And we'd do long trips together and got to know him real well. And just like Bobby, he was somebody that I could always joke with, no matter how serious they are. They could be in the middle of getting yelled at and reprimanded for something that they did, for fucking up. And if I'm like ribbing them at the same time saying, see, you shouldn't have done that. I mean, they would just know, they would be able to break, you know, enough to be on, they were on the same level as me enough to, you know, be like, shut up, bro, you know, and then stand there and take it. Whereas a lot of people, you just don't have that, I don't have that connection with, like they're into getting yelled at too much, and I'm more like, hey, you know, I mean, you know, I believe in yin and yang a lot, which is what I sport all over my outfits, and this is what I use to balance everything out. I mean, it's the balance of good and evil, and I use that. I use this to try to work towards inner peace. This is how I remain mellow. This is my strive for Zen, is my yin and yang, and I'll use that to tell you that you know, you can wake up and you can have a good day or you can have a bad day. It really is up to you. It's really your choice. And I'm always trying to have a good day. And you know, a lot of people don't understand that. If I'm late for the airport and I'm, you know, I've got like limited time and I'm running towards the airport, if I know that I'm doing everything I can to get there, then I'm going to be mellow and accept, you know, what happens, as opposed to, like, let's say my dad, who's a type A person, who's pounding the steering wheel, yelling at people. That's totally not like me, not outside the ring. I don't do that. And I had a connection with Louis and Bobby to where I felt like they were always on that plane with me, even if they stepped off, you know, just to connect with other people. But definitely Louis is great. And a funny story about Louis from Las Vegas real quick was that outside the arena, out in the back, when after his match one time, he sold a fan the tights that he was wearing right off of his body for $50. The guy said, he goes, $50 here? And he actually stepped out of, and I was like, you know, I just met him and I was like, wow, man, this guy's crazy. Standing here in his underwear for $50, he just sold it to a fan. And this was back in, what did we decide, 94, 95?
Probably 95,
This was
96.
95, 90, maybe 96, yeah. So just recently, in 2000, just a couple of weeks ago, I was at the mall here in Los Angeles, and a fan approached me, told me he used to watch me in Las Vegas every month. And immediately I knew who he was. I said, you're the one that bought Louis' tights, aren't you? And of course he was thrilled, you know, that I remembered him, but it's a funny story. That's something that I still have him. I'm not going to get rid of him. So.
There was a lot of attention around when Louis died, and I mean, there was a lot of attention towards wrestling. Did that really scare you when he died? Just from the way that he died too?
Absolutely, because Louis partied too much, and as good as I knew Louis, I knew that he had a problem with pills. I mean, that was what he liked to do. That was what he looked forward to doing. He couldn't eat enough, it seemed like. And like many of his friends, you know, we tried to pull him off of it. And at the same time, I had no idea it was that serious. You know, I would eat some, and Louis was the guy to know that was worse. You know, hell, if Louis eats that many, it must not be that bad. And when Louis passed away, it was a definite message to me that, you know, what he took was way too much. We don't know where the line is, but after the day that I found out, you know, I gave up. I gave up doing that for good, and it never missed it either. I mean, it's a muscle relaxer, somas that we used to eat. And Louis was trying to come off of that, but he was trying to come off of it by substituting with some other things too. So he was drinking a little bit with it, you know, which actually makes it worse. And yeah, I did I was seen on ESPN shortly after during all the controversy, in a very twisted up interview where they made it out to say exactly what they wanted to say. The lady from ESPN had told me that she wanted to interview me for the lifestyle of wrestling, how we make it to the gym on our tight schedule and tan and all that. Turned out she just wanted to talk about drugs, which I told her before I didn't want to do. But it turns out when she came out later, LA, you know, drugs this, drugs that, drugs this, drugs that, and then the way it finally aired out of the whole interview that we did for several hours, a small little clip where it shows me walking down the street, and she's saying something that I never told her. You know, Rob Van Dam flushed his somas down the toilet when Louis Spicolli died, which is true, but it makes it look like I was just telling her that, and then it goes on to show me answering a question to me that she didn't even that did not have. Wasn't related, you know, because she asked me something about did Louis dying save my life, and in which, you know, I answered by saying that I don't think I would have died, you know, had he not, but there's no telling. I wasn't ready to turn around and quit doing it. I didn't see the danger in it at the time, so definitely could have been me, you know, and definitely I learned to make better decisions from that. I'll always use that as a decision maker. You know, that's what part of what he stands for, you know, right now. And unfortunately, it doesn't stand for enough in other wrestlers' minds. But there was the ESPN thing, and yeah, so that's actually the only reason that I ever saw San Pedro, California, was to come out and visit Louis Spicolli. And now I live here in San Pedro, and I love it out here, but I came out and looking, but he passed away before I moved out here. But my wife and I are very close with his family, his sister and his grandmother.
Now back in ECW, your career, you're moving up the charts. Finally, April 4th of 1998 comes around, you get a chance to face Bam Bam Bigelow, the TV title holder. You win the belt from him, and you know, what was that like finally getting that major belt in ECW?
Well, you know, I was looking forward to the match, but I never put that much focus on actually who's holding the strap at the time, you know, because one guy has it this week, another guy has it that week, and that's never been something that I really focused on a lot, because I got brought up, you know, in the business by the Sheik, you know, saying you can't eat a belt. A promoter, you know, instead of paying these, they give you a belt, or promise to make you. I had a lot of promoters promising to make me the champion and stuff, you know, that stuff that you deal with all along through your career. And it's like, look, bottom line is, pay me. And I don't think my attitude changed that much after having the belt until I realized how much it meant to the fans. Because all of a sudden, after I had that belt, I came back the next week to come to work. We were in Queens, New York. I was wrestling Mikey Whipwreck. And Paul told me, you know, before the curtains, you know, I don't think it matters what you do. I know you're going to kick ass out there, but I think the fans are they're just going to love everything you do. And I was like, wow, I mean, this was a huge change. I mean, they were behind me and supporting me, you know, but all of a sudden when I came through the curtains, it was just like everybody, it was like I was it, you know, like I was the whole effing show at that point.
Is that where that came about, the nickname?
That actually came about, the first time I said that was doing the Van Dam lift. When I set the national record in a gym up in Pennsylvania, I had 3 officials around me, and I was performing the lift, which, by the way, the first time I tried it, I didn't make it. I had never been challenged in that before with the Van Dam lift, which, of course, is me doing the splits across the bench. It's actually the picking up of the weight. In a still picture, you can't appreciate the balance, strength, and coordination that it takes to reach down and grab the bar, the dumbbell, and sit up and then bring it up from a split. But I had always just done it for posing for pictures. 110 pounds, 135 pounds, no problem. So I thought, well, hell, I'll just do the heaviest dumbbell, you know. And ended up doing Fonzie's weight, 165.5 pounds, no, 166.5 pounds officially. And the first time that I tried it, it got caught on my weight belt and actually didn't go up. And that was as painful as it sounds too. But after I did it, the second time the Van Damme lift, we had the ECW cameras in the gym to do a promo. After I finally, you know, for the first time lifted that much weight, I set it down, I stood up, and I said, I never claimed to be a showstopper. I'm Rob Van Dam. I'm the fucking show.
The weight is 233 pounds.
That's official.
That's official weight at 233 pounds.
I thought Rob Van Dam was a junior, and that's before dinner. Wait a second, Fonzie. How can someone this big do all those amazing moves and have my coordination?
I don't know, and not an ounce of fat on him, Daddy.
Go figure.
Okay, great. I'll put it back. Now, you're talking about the belt. You don't worry too much about having championships. You know, like you said, you can't eat a belt. Do you think that too many people think too much about the belts? Like, hey, I gotta have this. You gotta have that outside of the money thing. Of like, I need the exposure. I need to have a belt. It's that big of a deal.
I don't think it's too big of a deal to where there's a problem with it. I think that everybody gets something different out of life. You know, and definitely in the wrestling business, what I get out of what I do in the ring is definitely different than what other people do. Because I watch other wrestlers in the ring that I will criticize inside to myself, like, why do they do this? They know the crowd they get no response from it. Why do they bother? Or why do they do that? Definitely they get something way different than me. So no, I think that that's great, you know, for people to be excited about whatever. I mean, some guys are just excited to be in the ring and don't concentrate enough on whether what they have in the ring is good or not, you know. Some guys don't concentrate on their body enough, whatever. I mean, I would focus on a lot of different things before I take away from having a belt, because having a belt does mean, you know, it is prestigious, and definitely, as I proved, you can make it mean something, you know, by holding it for almost 2 years.
Right.
Sure.
You held the belt for 23 months. I mean, did you ever expect anything like that to happen? Because that's unheard of in this day of age, to hold a belt for longer than a couple months in some cases, and you had it for almost 2 years straight.
I never had any idea all along how long it was going to last, really. And as it got more and more impressive, then I started wanting to hold on to it more. Then I started not wanting to let it go. And as I was approaching 2 years, then for sure, I mean, at least then, hey, well, now I got a goal. I'm going to try to keep this belt for, you know, at least a 2-year mark, which unfortunately I wasn't able to do because I suffered a broken leg.
Right. I mean, was that hard for you to hand the belt over? Because you had to do that. And I mean, like you said, you really liked holding the belt. There's a lot of honor and prestige you put into it.
It was not fun to do, to hand over the belt, but at the same time I have invested not only just the last 4 years of mine in ECW, but all of my future as well. And when I say all of my future, I'm saying I've just signed a 5-year contract with ECW, and being 29 years old as I am right now, the next 5 years of my career are pretty crucial. I mean, true, I can wait another 10 years and then go work for WCW when I'm old enough, but what I'm saying is that ECW is what I'm totally banking on and betting on, and I totally believe ECW is gonna find its spot in the wrestling world that it rightfully deserves. When the fans tell me ECW is the best, they're being totally sincere, and they really mean it. And that's because, like I said before, they appreciate seeing what I like seeing. But soon, by all standards, meaning by ratings, by the bank, everything, ECW will be up a notch. It'll be at least in the number 2 position, which is very important. I mean, I'm still amazed that there's three major groups right now. Because I grew up and there was only 2. There's always only been 2. And now that ECW is recognized as being one of the 3 biggies, that's still a shock in itself to me. So
when, I mean, you handed the belt over, I mean, that had to be tough for you, but I know it's something you didn't necessarily want to do, but do you think that was done right? Would you have, if you kind of were in the position to book it, would you have done something different? Because I know some guys, there's always that you know, mystery, you know, must defend the title within 30 days, which never really holds up. It's like one of these phantom things. Would you have done it differently than rather than just possibly
It came
waited?
it came as a complete surprise to me. I mean, I've been doing interviews for a couple of weeks as I was hurt, saying, being asked questions. I didn't even know what was going on. I mean, what are you talking about stripping me of a title? My plans are to keep the title. I mean, show some respect. It totally blindsided me to realize that I was being, in a position where I was going to be giving up the title. And although I won't use the word can't, and especially not when you're talking to Rob Van Dam, I'm not in the condition to be able to defend my title and heal and recuperate at the same time.
ECW. Randall, say it.
ECW. ECW. Hello.
That was uncalled. We drove all the way for Kentucky just to see ECW. It's my lifelong dream to be here.
You broke your leg at a show in Orlando this year. That's why you had to give up the belt. Talk about some of the other injuries that you've had, because you've been pretty healthy throughout your career.
Pretty fortunate actually,
Mm-hmm.
which I totally just
I mean, that injury was a fluke accident, even.
Very, very. As a matter of fact, we're still looking to see who threw the piece of kryptonite in the ring that I must have tripped over. I don't get hurt too much, and yeah, I have gotten banged up. I mean, I've broke my knuckles. I had a cast on my left foot once before where I had a hairline fracture in my foot from wrestling barefoot and sliding on the floor when I did a kick to Pistol Pezueli, and my base foot slid. And that was probably the most serious injury I had before because I was on a cast and crutches, but it was for a short time. And there was a point in my career where I was only wrestling a couple times a month, so it wasn't nearly as devastating. Just since I've been in ECW, I broke my wrist one time just doing a splash, which was a very simple. My hand's so bad, it broke my wrist, and after that I had to change it to more of a frog style. I also, of course, let me say, this would have been maybe the most serious injury, or potentially serious injury that I've had. Even more serious than my leg maybe was the night that I had the piece of wood sliced through my eyelid into my nose. And that was doing a move, although not nearly as simple or basic as a splash. It was a move that I'd done a lot before. Sabu and I are on the top rope, opposite corners. We jumped to simultaneously put our opponent through a wooden table. Bam Bam Bigelow that night, when the table broke, it broke in such a way that it broke to the outside instead of just caving in at a jagged edge. It was actually hanging that night, and later on I had to get the skin sewn back onto my eyelid with some kind of shield protector over my eyeball. So that was pretty gross. I've, of course, this was done doing a simple baseball slide. My inside ankle rolled underneath me as I was attempting to do a slide, and it broke my fibia. When I first came to ECW, although it wasn't nearly as serious, they say sometimes that having a break is better than having a sprain, which I don't totally understand. But I do remember one time when Chris Jericho drop kicked me, one of the first ECW matches, or it was in the first few months. I'd already started turning heel at that point. And at this point, I hyperextended my knee on the apron, or it was on the floor when he drop kicked me off of the apron. And it was like the night before an important arena show, the show following that stretcher match. So the next night, I mean, I could barely even walk. But I somehow made it down to the ring, and I was wrestling Sabu in that series of return matches that we had. And this match ended up we fought all kinds of odds because the ropes were broke. They broke a couple times during the night, so they were just hanging there. They thought they fixed them, but they broke again it was 100 degrees plus inside, and it was like 1 in the morning. And this was, part of my long introduction to ECW.
Now, you had a long run with the TV title. I think most fans will remember during the summer of '99, I believe it was, you had the big feud with Jerry Lynn, which a couple pay-per-views in a row, you had some great matches. I'm sure those are the ones that the fans remember the most. Are that some of the matches that you remember the most? You consider some of the best of your career that the fans do?
There was a point, I think it was '95 maybe, where I had a match with Phil LaFont, who's Danny Crockett for All Japan. This was at the Budokan in front of 17,000 people, which is where we would end every tour. At that point in my career, that was definitely the best match that I'd had. It was a single match at the Budokan, which was something rare to get on your way up till you've reached a certain level. And it was for the junior heavyweight title, which he had. It was definitely my best match at the time, although he ended up with the title. And I never wanted to be classified as a junior anyway. I wanted to outgrow that classification as soon as I could because I wanted to be a main eventer, get main event money. My match, I've had probably my stretcher match with Sabu would be one at that point that I would want anybody to see if they were just to see, you know, what Rob Van Dam was doing, you know, for a living. Someone that hadn't seen me, I'd show them that. And at this point, I've had 2 matches with Jerry Lynn on pay-per-view, and both of them are definitely the best matches that I've had because, like I said, what's important to me is entertaining the crowd. It's my job to display my abilities, and definitely I'm best showcased when I'm wrestling against Jerry Lynn because he pulls anybody wrestle like that. I mean, damn, you know, you're good. I know, you know, I know they're not seeing that on TV, you know. Very much unlike when I was wrestling for WWF and I'd wrestle on Monday night and someone would come up to me then and say, hey, I seen you wrestle. It's where did you see it? If they say Monday night, I'd be like, oh, dude, that's not what I'm all about. Watch ECW every time.
What's more impressive to you, having the TV title for 23 months in a row, or being at this point 14-0 on pay-per-view? Because you're the only.
Is that my record?
Yeah, 14-0, cool. Undefeated on pay-per-views through 14 in a row for a guy like yourself, main eventing now. You know, that's unheard of too. I mean.
Yeah, I've always stuck by what I believe in, and it's given me some heat from you know, certain people, and that's a fact of life. You know, not everybody is going to support you and your ideas, and you know that's important for kids to know when they grow up. If they have a dream, you know, don't let it be squashed. You know, and I've stuck by the same guidelines, the same standards throughout the business, and I kept myself directed in such a way that when I decided to stay with ECW, after I'd already been in ECW for a while, and I was wrestling at one point for ECW, WWF, and All Japan, all at the same time, plus a little bit of independent wrestling, all at the same time, when I finally made my decision that I was going to stay in ECW, where I could best be showcased, it was that point that Paul decided he was going to do anything he could to make me happy, and now, this much later, that's never changed. Now, not to say he doesn't piss me off sometimes, but definitely I can't speak for everybody, but if you're Rob Van Dam, ECW is a good place to be right now.
Yeah, and ECW is getting tons of exposure. We're in March of 2000. Now you guys are on TNN on Friday nights right now. You happy with the agreement with TNN so far? Because I know some people aren't, from the standpoint that there hasn't really been too much advertising for it. At this point, I don't think TNN's really given any advertising towards the ECW show, and it's the highest rated show on their channel.
The only show that anybody even watches TNN for is ECW, and that's because we brought those viewers to TNN. So for them, it was, you know, not too hard of a deal to figure out. Are they not interested in letting people know that we're on ECW, that we're on Friday nights, you know? They've done a little bit of promotion. I've done some work, like at some cable conventions with them, but that's not like hitting fans or, you know, or targeting the you know, the mainstream. The only time that you ever see an ECW commercial is when you're watching ECW on Friday nights. You know, then you get, and even then, you know, it's like they don't understand what ECW is, because at first when they started showing the commercials, even though we're extreme and we pride ourselves on being different, we're originators. And that's what we're proud of. And they're putting commercials of us clotheslining, drop kicking. TNN opens up another can of whoop ass on Friday nights. You know, I mean, like, I hated it. And then now the commercials are better. They're showing a little more extreme moves, so at least maybe when you watch it, you go, wow, that looks kind of good. And then, but still, they're only showing the commercials on Friday nights, and they're concentrating on like Roller Jam and stuff. It's been great for ECW as far as where we were before, definitely, because before we had that, we had a weekly syndicated television show, but that's a hit and miss. Not everybody gets it. The TNN, almost everybody in America and Canada can tune into it now. If you don't have it, your friend does, and it definitely has helped our exposure, because now I notice, like out here in Los Angeles, for instance, where they didn't get the syndicated show, now people are watching it on Friday nights, definitely.
What would be the ideal situation for you, do you think, for ECW? Where they should air, what time, what channel?
Well, right now there's a lot of dealings going on with the possibility of WWF coming over to TNN. It's very public news. It's all over the internet that WWF is negotiating with some of the channels. And it looks like TNN is a leader, and it looks like maybe that's why TNN isn't concentrating so much on ECW, is because they're focused on WWF, which obviously that's more their style anyway, because we're opposite what the normal people who watch TNN, you know, that tune in for that exciting Saturday afternoon fishing show. You know, they're not really used to seeing the going from tackle to TNA, you know. But I don't know. At this point, I hope that does happen, because we've proved ourselves as being a draw, being the highest rated show, and I hope that WWF does come over to TNN, because we'll get off of TNN, and that is only going to be good, because USA would be open if WWF leaves it, and that's a great possibility, and I'm thinking right now that it looks like that very well may happen, which would be a huge growth spurt for ECW. I mean, it would be huge instantly, which if it doesn't happen, then it's just going to be good anyway. In one way or another, that's going to happen, and before this videotape comes out, as a matter of fact. So either way, I just know that ECW is going to be in a position where everyone turns their heads and looks at it, and I know also that when everyone turns their heads to see ECW, they're going to be glued into it. Not everybody. I mean, some people, it's not for them. Some people, you know, they might not want to see the blood or hear the cursing and swearing, or the loud rock music. It isn't for everybody, but we don't necessarily target mainstream, but out of that mainstream you're going to have your hardcores and you're going to have your others. That's why we have such a diverse dressing room, you know. I mean, certain fans may watch it just to see Sandman, because they feel like he's their local bar buddy, you know, that should be on the stool next to him and just got in the ring, you know, they get behind him. But then there's also someone like me. I have a lot of fans tell me that they're not wrestling fans, but that they caught me and now they're hooked, and that to me is a hell of a compliment, and that's also something that I go for, because I know Rob Van Dam's my favorite to watch wrestle.
We want to know, is it true? Are you the real show? Nitro sucks. I want to hear a televised interview about Rod Van Dam, about how he feels about Nitro and how they sucking, and all the other wrestlers about how you feel about that. Cut
it. It's entertainment, and it's at the expense of our bodies, yes, but ECW is a place where being tough makes a difference. I got no worries.
Now,
as soon as my leg heals up.
You said for a while now that you've always believed ECW would be the #2 promotion, only a matter of time. Now, while ECW is growing, which everybody pretty much expected, I don't think anybody really saw the decline of WCW as quickly as it happened, especially here in 2000. I mean, were you surprised that they're declining as rapidly as they are?
Well, when I watched their show, no, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I watched their show, and
you don't like it at all.
I'm not too entertained. But I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming at all, and it definitely makes it easier for us to surpass them, as long as they're falling down so quickly. But at the same time, you know, as I have always believed in ECW, it was so much that I knew it would beat WCW, even when WCW was doing better, you know. And just because I believed in that, I had to not let other people that didn't believe it, you know, not bother me, because in the long run, I got to be happy with my own decisions. That's the best way to avoid resentment, is to make good decisions, you know. So yeah, I've had like there's this asshole at PWI, Dave Rosenbitch, that publicly wrote like ECW World Heavyweight Belt will never be considered by him a World Heavyweight Belt. And so there's people like that once ECW surpasses WCW, which he said would be the only way that he would recognize me as a world champ, is if I got a WCW or WWF belt. It gives opportunities for us to kind of snicker and laugh and and pee on their magazine and stuff.
I want to know when Rob Van Dam's going to beat Sabu's ass.
I want to know when Rob Van Dam going to kick the hell out of Stone Cold Steve Austin. What? You will not get on TV with that.
Now, when I grew up watching wrestling, you didn't have to have ability of athleticism whatsoever. I grew up watching WWF, and at the time, if you were a hillbilly and you could dance with a pig under your arm, or you could grab them cakes with a horseshoe, that's it, you're in. If you're 300 pounds, boom, you got a job, you're marketable. Now, the fans are so educated on wrestling after all the years, and they know now that the wrestlers are entertainers, that they demand entertainment. They say, okay, we know that you're just working to entertain us, so they're not going to feel sorry for you if you're not entertaining anymore. They're going to say, look, I bought a ticket, entertain me. And that gives harder workers a better chance. And that's why today, the standard size of a professional wrestler is so much different. From the 275, 300 pounder to now, you got people like Rey Mysterio Jr., like 140 pounds, considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. Back then, he wouldn't have even got looked at. The truth is, yeah, he's great, look at him. And there's a lot of 200-pound wrestlers, under even, that are getting recognized because they're so good, because really, a lot of the smaller guys can work faster. A lot of that can be more entertaining, In the same respect, the wrestling magazines have to realize that it's changed too, because since it's come that way, that means that the old traditional rules aren't so anymore. Because now that the fans know that it's not that it's entertainment, and they're not so defensive about the fighting aspects of wrestling. The magazines have had to do so too, and they struggled with it, and they wanted to be able to make up stories like they've always done. I remember when I was a kid, I read a quote from Killer Kowalski talking about the Ultimate Warrior, his opinion of the Ultimate Warrior, and I was reading it. So I went to visit a school. I was like, I was checking out what you said about the Ultimate Warrior. I thought that was cool. I agreed with you. He's like, what? He goes, hey, hell kid, they make that shit up. And I was like, no way. And then after I started reading some stuff about me, I saw where, this conflicts me building my own image. I would get letters from fans in different parts of the country that don't get television. They just get the magazines, as far as, me. And they would write, and they would say, I read you the magazines, and I would say, wow, if they're really only reading that, they think that I'm something that I'm not. And then it started bothering me when they would sing old pictures, of me, because I was like, come on, I'm trying to come along. And they would make up conversations I've had or whatever. So I said, okay, if they're going to do that, I'm going to go on the internet, and I'm going to expose it for what it is and say, hey, they made that shit up. So then the magazines are calling me, saying, hey, don't do that, you can't do that, and I'm like, but I can. I mean, this is the way it is. It is what I make of it.
Some of the wrestling reporters go too far into your wife, because I know you had to go through that when your wife got hurt.
Yeah, not too far to where they're going to damage me, but far enough to where they deserve a little retaliation, and the RVD fans deserve to know the truth about stuff that they print. But I was ranked number 2 in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500 of last year, which of course was prestigious, and it was like a compliment with a slap in the face too, because like, okay, you're number 2, but you'll never be number 1 because you're ECW, and I can't believe you got number 2 because you always dog on the magazines, but you needed some good news because your wife was in a bad accident. That was like completely tasteless. And then Dave Rosenbitch says that me being a wrestler or a celebrity of any kind, that I should know the first rule is for me to not care what's written about me, only care that they got my name right. So that's just so ridiculous that just deserves mention on every interview that I care to bring it up, probably for the rest of my career.
Now, earlier we were talking about the decline of WCW. There's been a lot of guys from ECW to actually leave there and go to WCW only to kind of be buried. I mean, they haven't worked out well. Guys like Shane Douglas, guys like Bam Bam Bigelow, they haven't worked out well. Are you surprised that guys continue to go there and that WCW has misused guys like that?
I think Bam Bam is doing well, and I don't really keep up with it, but he's been, wrestling for years and years, and from one company to the next, he's the guy that's going to survive.
I think a lot of fans expect a lot more because of what they did in ECW.
Right, well, no, they have taken a lot of besides just taking our ideas, like the Monday Night Wrestling promotions do almost on a weekly basis, besides that, they've taken our talent too, talent that was originated in ECW, like Mikey Whipwreck, Stevie Richards, Sandman. And those are guys that, wouldn't have been taken had they not been in ECW. So Chastity, the whole Flock original idea, that was all, an attempt, to really hurt ECW to take it down. And like I've said before, I don't blame anybody for looking out for themselves. That's exactly why I stay in ECW, because I'm looking out for me. Because I'm Best Showcase. We've got the best color commentator, Joey Styles. He knows what to call the shit in the ring, and I learned to name a lot of my moves from listening to him. And I hate it when I'm watching some of the other stuff and they're talking about a different match or a special that's coming on TNT later or something during a match. It totally makes it not exciting to watch. And of course, Paul being the mind that he is, this is definitely the place where I'm best showcased. Where I'm best at my ability to show my fullest, and that's what I'm about.
Are you surprised the WWF is as huge as they are right now? Because right now, far and away, they are the #1 promotion.
I think that's probably going to not change, for quite a while. I mean, unpredictable things can always happen, crazy things, but definitely they are a household name. They're what people think of when they hear wrestling. A lot of times wrestling, I mean, like WWF, and I grew up watching them, and they're still strong, they're still on top, but the wrestlers I grew up watching there are now wrestling in WCW. And I'm not surprised, but I'm happy, that wrestling's so popular that it's a mainstream kind of thing. But when I watch it, I feel totally like it's a complete different job what WWF wrestlers do compared to what what ECW wrestlers do. At least me.
How so?
Well, most of their matches are short, and I don't know how you're supposed to not notice that a guy's only going out there for 3 or 4 minutes, because that's all they wrestle, and it's a lot of mic work, and between them coming out to the ring, talking on the microphone, they usually wrestle for 2 minutes, and then you see them leaving, and if it may be a little bit longer than that sometimes, but their job is more to get in there. They'll get a couple moves. I tell a story, when I'm in the match, which is psychology. I mean, it's something that not only am I telling, but I mean it's happening. I mean, throughout the length of a 30-minute match, my fans get to see me be tried to the utmost physical limitations. By taking extreme bumps, that just about break my neck or break me out on the floor, or whether it's with the fighting with the furniture or in the crowd, whatever. But they see that I'm broken up, and I really am. A lot of times when I'm in that ring and I'm limping around, I really feel like that. And that's because I'm giving it my all. My hair's all over. I'm dirty. I've got beer and chew all over me from being on the floor. But I feel, like I'm giving it what I've got. I would feel completely robbed if I was to come in the ring and out, and not to mention the fact that I would have a hard time getting the fans behind me. They go a completely different way getting the fans behind them, which obviously they do. They're very successful, but definitely it's important to me to have a personal touch with the fans. Besides my website being so personal, with me reading all the email, and I answer some of them. I keep in touch with all of them because I like the feedback from my fans, and I would totally feel like I was robbing them if I gave them less than I could give them, and I would feel like I was robbing myself.
Now
RVD. 5-star frog splash, baby.
And I'm the new effing show.
Wait. 1, 2, 3.
It doesn't matter what WCW thinks! Goddamn right, we're from the A-Town! Y'all from this motherfucker! Get it all fucking drunk! ECW in this motherfucker! We dirty motherfuckers!
Drive on the road, WCW.
One, two, three.
ECW.
Yeah!
Fuck WCW.
This man skipped seeing his probation officer just to be here today.
Damn right!
That's my wife. I got kicked out of ECW in Gainesville because of some fat fucking pigs. Hey, guys, no need for that. And I'm just here to support my ECW and... Ow, ow, why do you have to be so close? You're invading my bubble.
And Juan's gone!
Ow, but...
Oh my God!
Now, what would you be doing if you weren't wrestling?
Besides other avenues of the entertainment business, which is kind of the same thing, because I enjoy fighting and the physical action more than selling a pair of Calvin Klein jeans, you know. If I couldn't do that, I would want to make comic books, I think. That was the only other love that I ever had, and although I don't collect them, I'm not up on current issues, I still mark out when I'm at a comic book shop doing Rob Van Dam Appreciation Days. Watch for Rob Van Dam comic book to be coming out pretty soon, too.
Great. Thanks for the time, Rob. Any last thought?
As a matter of fact, I do have the last thought. I want to update all the RVD fans on what's been going on since we filmed this interview. Now, this is the end of September, and a lot has happened. Obviously, I got my weight room. Things have been going great. Let's start with my acting career. Had a great time working with Randall Tex Cobb on the X-Files. Check it out. Then I got to really broaden my horizons by playing a gun-toting Texan do-gooder on 18 Wheels of Justice. I also got to play a psychotic army major on VIP. Sorry I don't have any footage to show you yet, it hasn't aired. Check it out though, I don't know, check your local listings. Latest news I have is that I will be on Black Mask 2. Looks like I'll be going to Thailand for an adventure. Things are crazy, but looking forward to it. Back to wrestling, ECW hasn't changed its status a whole lot within the business. It's still rising on a consistent pace, just like I predicted, and it looks like a deal's made with USA. Nothing's confirmed at this time. Now, I know I touched a little bit on the independent scene, and I didn't really show a lot of footage from there. I mean, there was a lot of matches I had where I really learned a lot in the early 90s from the veterans, and I know you want to see it. Now, when you're talking about learning from the veterans, I have to show some footage of me wrestling my good friend Dory Funk Jr. It's happened a few times, but what you're going to see is what you're not supposed to see. That's right, you didn't even know that I was part of that Amarillo show. Why? Because this was banned from video. Well, that's about it. I mean, I've got so much in the air that I'm sure we're going to have to make a sequel. Oh, time for me to go anyway.
I'd like to know what you consider your toughest match ever and who your toughest opponent ever was. That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna come up now. Okay.
If you could have one match during the Super Bowl that everyone could see, who would you wrestle and what type of match would it be?
Me! Motherfucker! Yeah, Van Dam, do you feel your record's tarnished by not beating Sabu? What are you gonna do about it? When are you gonna finally put him in the mat and finish him off? See, because you are the champ.
Oh, my knee! I like Rob Van Dam!
ECW!
2, 1.
You know who you're looking at? You're looking at the future ECW World Television Champion. So watch the fuck out, Van Dam, because I'm coming after you. Look, Ma, I'm on the TV. Look at me. I'm doing stuff. Hey, I'm on it.
ECW.
That was uncalled. We drove all the way for Kentucky just to see ECW. It's my lifelong dream to be here.
Let me get your shirt.
Rob Van Dam, I'd like to know, where did you go to wrestling school? Who trained you?
All I got to say to Rob Van Dam is this. You think you're beautiful, you think you're good, you think you're pretty, but are you worth anything? Are ya? That's my question to you.
Why Rob Van Dam thinks he's the effing show.
That's it. I want to know when Rob Van Dam's going to beat Sabu's ass.
I want to know when Rob Van Dam going to kick the hell out of Stone Cold Steve Austin. What?
You will not get on TV with me.
3.
Hey, Mr. Monday Night, stay in ECW. You're gonna be doing the job. You go to the big leagues, you'll be on your back like this. All right? It's 419. Got a minute?
You got drinking tonight.
Hey, RVD, are you gonna sell out like Taz did?
Rob, just one question. When you going after the heavyweight title? That's all I want to know.
Rob, who's the worst you've ever...
Alright.
Rob, what's the worst you ever injured someone?
Rob Van Dam, I get Northern Lights 120 a quarter. I suggest you call me.
Rob Van Dam, suck it.
Rob, you're the best! Woo!
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
As well as you for your TV time, we'll whoop your ass.
Rob Van Dam, you the whole effing show!
That's good. Yeah, man, that was great.
That's a good one, Mark. Rob, you're the best. I love you, buddy. You know, I was going through a difficult time, you know, my mom and my dad were yelling at me. But I saw you on the ECW one day. You were doing like an outside moonsault or something, and you know, it made me feel all okay. Thanks, Rob. I love you. In a heterosexual way.
Wait a minute.
We want to know, is it true? Are you the real show?
Nitro sucks. I want to hear a televised interview about Rod Van Dam, about how he feels about Nitro and how they sucking, and all the other wrestlers about how you feel about that. Cut it.
Please don't back. It's 420. Time for RVD. 5-star frog splash, baby.
And I'm the new effing show.
Wait. 1, 2, 3.
It doesn't matter what WCW thinks!
Goddamn right, we're from the A-Town. Y'all bring this motherfucking ECW in this motherfucking like this dirty. We dirty motherfuckers.
Drive on the road, WCW.
Shut this up.
1, 2, 3.
ECW.
Yeah! ECW!
Fuck WCW!
This man skipped seeing his probation
That's my one. I got kicked out of ECW in Gainesville because of some fat fucking pigs. Hey, guys, no need for that. And I'm just here to support my ECW and... Ow, get out. Why do you have to be so close? You're invading my bubble.
And one's God!
Ow. But, all I'm saying is ECW is the coolest shit on the face of the earth, and if it ever goes out of business, I'm gonna go up and, shove my dick in Tech Turner's mouth. That's all I'm saying.
See that building right there? My friend will do a nosedive from the top of that building.
Yes, I will.
He'll do it.
Yeah. All right, by the end of the night, I guarantee him.
Yeah. ECW, thank you for coming to RVD, yo. Because ECW, baby. Talking shit. ECW, just thank you for coming to H. Yes, baby. RVD is